We hope you enjoy listening to the historic gathering of the Willaura community, a 2-day event recorded in 2015 called The Yarn. Listeners are to be advised that these recordings contain voices and images of family members, community and friends who have died.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. It's a thrill to see you all turn up. I've had a list of names for a month and it's lovely to tick you off as you come in the door. Heather Fleming is my name and this is Elijah Luke Spittle McLeod. You'll remember him. And we've been talking about it for a long time, the idea of getting everybody back and recording the story. So that's what we're here to do. And I hope you all feel free to come and speak up. We look forward to hearing what you're saying. Tomorrow, those of you coming, the school children will be coming up, so we welcome all of you back tomorrow if you can come.
I have asked everyone, and I'm pretty sure everyone's done it, the media release forms which are on the table on the way in. That's basically just to reaffirm that you're happy for what is recorded today and the photographs to be used in the replication of the yarn so that it can be used for your families and for future generations in the town. So there's going to be more than we could possibly capture this morning and this afternoon and tomorrow, and I'm sure that we're going to see that as the kind of yarn unfolds. If you could just identify who you are and just in brief your connection to the town and how it is that you're here today. So mine might be, I'm Luke Spittle, I was born here, you know, my family have been here for several generations. And then I would go into my particular story after that. It would, each time you speak, please say your name. That would be great. We have Mr. Gallett joining us at 11:30, so we thought that we would just give him the floor. That's Mr. Sid Gallett.
Some people are only able to stay for the morning, so please make sure that if that's the case for you, that you do get yourself up and have a chat, because we'd hate you to come all this way and spend the morning and not have an opportunity to say anything. So,
who's it going to be? It's like getting in the pool, isn't it? On those cold mornings, who's going to be the first to jump in the pool?
I'm Harry Lister. Just watch that. This is a map of Willaura back in the 40s. I've drawn all the houses that I can remember in those days. I've put Airy Street, the Catholic Church, from the Catholic Church to the back lane, to sale yards, Billy Walker's chaff mill behind where Rusty Gordon had the shop. All down Airy Street on the left, there was no houses. Right down the bottom on the right, going down to Doovers, there was one house, Richie, bank manager, then the old Juice, and then old George Lang, and then the Catholic Church, and then Sale Yards all the way up. Going up Warrenhoek Street, there was Murphy's on the corner. He used to grow veggies. Then was our place, then Richie's, and then the school. Presbyterian Church, Woomsley's, Jimmy Sutton, and then there was another house there, I can't remember. Then the German church, and the house that's right back off the road, I can't remember who was in there. Old Jack Templeton, and then Archie Wright on the corner. Coming down the other way, on the other side of the street, there was nothing from the corner down to where Johnny Walters lives now. There was a bloke called Stan Nurse, used to live in there. He used to play in the band with my father. Then there was, I can't even read my own writing. Oh, Ted Noldy, the baker. He lived where, next to Johnny, where Johnny was. Then was Merv Cooper on the corner, Alec Walters, Leo Clary, Jim Phillips, he was a stock agent. Then was Joe Hockley, then the blacksmith shop. Vern Johns, Frank Duncan, Chuck Cooper, Tim Healy, he was a policeman. Silo Jim, he was the first man to run the silo. Silo Jim Brennan. And then Johns's, we're down the bottom. Then in Commercial Street, there was bloke Stevens, he was stock agent, on the left, where young Thulis is. Then Horry Hopkins. Lionel McRae, he was a bootmaker. He's Johnny McRae's uncle. Then Tom Conboy. Then the Kerrs. I don't know who was in the next one. Can't remember. Jim Brennan. Jimmy Gordon. No, Mrs. Cleary. And on the other side, you come all the way down across Walkerville Street. There was nothing all up there, and there was nothing from where my house was. Dulcie Walker, Miss Scurry, our school teacher, used to board there. Stuart McGuinness and old Stazanowski. Then the next house, I can't remember. Bert Ryan, Jacoby's, Elaine's parents. The old hospital, Billy Walker lived in there. Billy Walters. Then Ted Walters, Johnny's father. Basil Miskey. And then in Wyman Street, there was old Punter Hargraves up in the corner. He is the skin boy. There was down on just over the rubber line, there used to be a big shed there, and he was a skin boy in there. Then there was Mrs. Jewell. Then there was nothing right down to Barnes's. They were right down, and then the Barrett the painter. Then there was nothing to the corner. In the main street, there was Dave Walker right up top. Reverend Scott, he was where the big hedge is up the front, up the top there. Then there was Ray Lardner, Dr. Kecky. I don't know who lived in the corner. I know Buster Aldridge lived in it after the war. I don't know who was in Hanscomb's place. I can't remember. Then there was Mrs. Jewell. I'm not sure. Jack Gordon. I'm not sure. It was Jack Gordon there. And then there was Frank Walker, just over there where that new house is. And Charlie Cooper lived there, right there. There used to be a house right there. I can't remember who used to live in that. Stan Cross. Yeah. And then, he was shearing contract. That's right, I used to go with his daughter. Unbeknown to Stan. That house was shifted out to the farm out. Brophy's had a farm and they shifted that house out there. The Masonic Hall. And then the courthouse, of course, was there. The Graham and them shifted down there. Fire station, post office. Harry Ford on the corner, National Bank. The Bakers, that was Mrs. Now, wasn't there a Mrs. Johnson before that? A Mrs. Johnson in the baker shop? Mrs. Hopkins.
Mrs. Hopkins, she was in the bakers. She ran it for years. Her husband was killed in the war.
Yeah, where are we? Butcher. Then was Tom Robertson's, the fruit shop. Ray Larden at the paper shop. Alec McDonald. Frank Walker had a little shed there just past, what's the name, used to sell Shell petrol in drums in those days. Then the pub. Oh yeah, Denny's little office there, that's right, yeah, Denny's had the office there. The pub. In the pub was the chemist shop, in that little there's a little room this side. I think somebody's got paintings or something in it there now. And I can't remember who the chemist was. That's right, Miss Smalley. Yeah, Miss Smalley was in there. And then there's the commercial bank.
Excuse me, with the chemist shop, Harry, that got burnt down. State your name, just please. I'm Jeff Lardner, now live in Ararat and bred and born here, the same as Harry. And the chemist shop, it got burnt down when Max Dreer was in there. Remember that? Whereabouts was it? The chemist shop near the hotel there, that's where Max Dreer started up. Yeah, and it got burnt.
Yeah, but there was, before Max Dreer, there was a Johnson, a Miss Johnson or Miss, before Dreer ever come here. Yeah, no, you probably won't remember that. I don't think you go back as far as me. Now, I got no idea there's a Miss Johnson or a Miss somebody like that was the chemist those days, but I can't remember it getting burned. It did. Oh, can't remember that.
I'm Jeff Ford. Norm Hammett was a chemist, and McGregor was another one after him.
Yeah, but before him, right, I'm going back when I was a kid. That's when I was 5.
I was a kid then.
Yeah, but it's. I'm sure there was a Mrs. Somebody was a chemist in that place there, and then there was a pub, and then didn't Basil Mithke had that selling New Holland stuff? That all come out, didn't it?
And beside the hotel used to be the billiard saloon.
That's right. Yeah, that's right, and it's in the building itself, in the pub building, and Johnny Sabalak was the hairdresser there. Yeah, you remember that?
I know when we were kids, we were not allowed to go anywhere within a bull's roar of the billiard saloon. That was totally out.
Yeah, well, I'm saying before Johnny ever come there, that was a billiard room, and then he started up hairdressing thing in there. And then Basil Mithke started up New Holland, come out, and he started selling balers and all that next to it. There was a shed next to it, and then there's the bank, the Commonwealth Bank, and then Walters, and then the Plonk shop, where the supermarket is. The old Plonk shop. They burnt that down to collect the insurance because it weren't going real good. Because Laurie was going with the girl that was living in there at the time. Yeah. Then you went from there, you went to the corner. There was a shop on the corner, but I couldn't remember. I know later on Snakes Turner was selling push bikes in there on the corner. And then there was Miss Prichter's. Remember Miss Prichter? We used to paint the penny silver because she couldn't see, and we get 2 bobs for the change. She only opened on a Saturday night when the pictures were on. Yeah. And then after the hall, as I said, Peter Hellier, he was further down. And he used to do the Wycliffe Mail Run for years. And then, he had a garage down there. He used to have a T-model Ford that he used to do the mail run in. And then Bob Coon took it over after that, and Bob done it for years and years and years. Yeah, and then where you go over the railway line, there used to be a big dam there, and Ian's uncle got drowned in there. Ian Biggin's uncle was drowned in the dam. He took the horse down for a drink, and the cart pushed the horse upside down and tipped him in the dam and drowned him in that dam in the corner. And of course the race course was out there at Peacocks. That was right. And then on this side, over here, when you go down, there was three houses up here. There was Wakelings, the Webbs, they were up there. And then down here, there was a dam in the corner. Remember the dam in the corner? We weren't allowed in there, but we used to sneak in there getting yabbies in there. And then on this side was a Shire yard, because my old man worked for the Shire before the war.
And the Scout Hall was not about here. Just further, where the preschool is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Because Jim Tutton bought it, and he went and cut two. He nearly got locked up over this. He got two trees out of the plantation, and he jacked the Scout Hall up, and he dragged them straight up here with the old crane truck. He dragged them straight up the bitumen here, and he left bark and all the way up there. Took it up there into his place. Sure, we're going to log him up. Yeah, I remember that. And then there was Mrs. Who was the woman that had the milk bar? Mrs. Nicholson, that's right. And then there was Patterson's, he used to make tanks. That's right, yeah, that's right, yeah. They used to live over the railway line here.
Over where Richard lives now, is where they lived. Uncle behind the shop.
Oh, that's right there.
Sorry, Heather.
She's wearing her arm out here. And then you go down, and then there was Patterson's, and then there was a vacant block, and then there was Pemu and Wrights. Pugh and Wrights were on the corner, and that big tin shed was theirs too. I remembered the fire. I don't know what year it was, but remembered the fire. Pemewans went up, and at the same, just about 5 minutes after, German church went up. We know who done it, but everybody knew who done it. It was a prisoner of war that done it. Yeah, because while the fire brigade were putting this out, the German church burned down. Yeah. And then, of course, there was Hoppy's shop on the other side. And then Mrs. Holt she used to buy grain.
Oh, sorry, in between there was the milk bar that Len Simmons had.
They come from Ballarat. Who? Simmons, that's right, Mrs. Simmons, yeah. Yeah, and then the railway house was there. I can remember him building the silo. I remember him seeing him build the silo. And yeah, that's about all, I think. I can remember. But there's no more on here that I know. As I said, over the railway line, just as you go over on the right, before you go on the gate of the wreck, old Billy... old Punter Hargraves had his skin shop there, and he used to buy skins and all that, because he had one eye, a pair of glasses, and we used to take rabbit skins in there, and he used to stick his belly out like this and hold the scale up here, so that the skin sat on his belly, so he didn't have to pay you so much. So we tricked him. We got some separator spindles and all that and tied inside the skins. We got a bit of extra money.
Harry, what was the pelt of a rabbit worth in those days?
Oh God, I can't remember. But I know Laurie and I were catching them and selling them. We only had 6pence a pair those days. Opposite your place, Laurie and I lived out there when Des Phillips bought it off this bank manager, this Ritchie that was the bank manager. He bought that farm out there, and then he sold it to Des Phillips. When he bought it, it just used to move with rabbits. There was thousands of rabbits there. And old Des, Laurie and I had nowhere to live, and old Des let us go out there and live in the house as long as we caught the rabbits. Well, we were catching 200 pair a day. We're setting the traps 4 times a day, and we're getting 6pence a pair. Old Job from Stawell used to come down, get them. Yeah. So, but, yeah, there's nothing else, I don't think. Oh, that's another thing. A lot of you people won't know. Up there, I don't know whether it's still there or not, is Colin Holmes here? Where is he? Over there. This is a big oh no, you don't own that block, do you? Hazlitt. It's gone, is it? They dug it up. In the middle of the paddock up there, where the triangle paddock where young Hazlitt's got up there, there used to be a big white cross in it. And it was during the war, for the aeroplanes to land up there. But Graham said it's gone. Yeah. It's still there, is it?
Colin Holmes, I don't know what I can tell you, but I'm a son of a soldier settler. And the cross that they're talking about, it was a cement cross in the paddock in the dirt, and it's in between the paddock was about 190 acres, and it was right in the middle of the fence line there now. Yeah. Still there.
You could land during the war, in case they had land, yeah.
And also in that paddock used to be the Chinese gardeners.
Oh, yeah, on the corner.
On the corner.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, speak a bit more about that. Geez, a long time ago. There used to be 2 of them there, 2 Chinese gardeners, and they had a huge garden, but I don't know where they sold their produce to. They used to be able to go up there and buy whatever you wanted directly.
Yeah, mainly.
Graham Robinson, grandfather was Tom Robinson, in the shop down the street, and Jeff's on the button there. There was 2 Chinamen there, Fung Sing and Fung were the 2 Chinamen. We used to buy a lot of their produce for the shop. I can distinctly remember going up there with the old man, the Morris commercial, and Fung Sing was an absolute staunch drinker of White Lightning, and the old man used to follow him along, and sometimes I wonder how that old Morris commercial got back home. Fung, it was the skinny one of the 2 died, and he's buried up here in the cemetery here at Willaura. Fung Sing sold out to Nick Groot's brother. Can't think of his first name. Anyway, he sold out to Nick Groot's brother, and Fung Sing supposedly went back to China to die, but who knows whatever happened to him after he left Willaura. And that's about the story on the Chinese garden. Who's next? Nobody. They've run away.
Millier's brought him here. Jim Millier brought him here in the first place. Yeah. Jim Millier's given that bit of land up there and settled them in there, and they had the garden. Everybody around the town used to go and buy their veggies, and yeah.
Thanks, Harry. Sorry we put you on the spot.
No, it's all right. There's one I forgot to tell you. Up here on the corner on the right, that used to be old Mick Wright. He was the nightman. He used to cart the cans, do the toilets around, and he used to carry them on his head. He used to carry the cans on his head. Yeah, he lived up there. Yeah, and there's out past where peacocks are on the right. There's a block of land in there, about 5 or 6 acres that the Shire owned, and that's where they used to take it and bury it out there in those days. Yeah. And I don't know whether he done it in a horse and cart, I think. Yeah, because Do you remember old Fat and Skinny took over after him? There was a woman about this wide, and he was about 6'6" high, and they used to go up the road in a horse and cart, and the cart used to be like this. They took it on after old Mick. Yeah, they were doing it. Yeah, I can't remember what their name was. Who? Slope, that's it? Yeah, Slopers.
They lived out the Yarram Gap Road.
What's the name? Yeah, we got the gong. We've had the gong. We're going. All right.
There's one thing I can always remember about the night, man, because in our place they had to go back of the shop. They had to go from the back lane down about 50 metres, I suppose. And of course, back in those days, Dad used to get all his produce and it was all wrapped up in wire. And the poor old nightman's walking out, was on his head, piece of wire round each feet, and down he came. Stock taking. Now, one of my fond memories of Willaura, I think, is you probably remember, Graham, the bluestone gutter that ran across the main street. And in between the bluestone, there was enough room for the bike wheel to fit. I can still remember the day Wolf McInerney was dinking Graham, and next minute, over the handlebars they both went.
Jeff says it's quite right, and I've still got the scar in the side of my face here where after about a fortnight Dr. Kecky, with his blunt pocket knife, dug it out of the side of my face, a little stone in there. Jeff's spot on there. You could hear the people coming down the town in their early Fords or whatever, be going like the clappers, and suddenly, wham, straight into this gutter that ran across the main street. It ran from about the the baker shop, and across to about where Reeds were there somewhere. Yeah, and then they put it underground, didn't they, after that? Yeah, there you go, Jeff.
Thank you. We'd invite some of the others up now. We'd like to hear your stories.
Come on, get up here. Come on, Anne. Get up here. There you go. She's on the button. While Anne's coming, yeah, come on, Joe. While Anne's coming, I'll just run through a couple of the little notes I've made. One of my early memories is of Jack McDonald in the butcher shop feeding me raw lamb's tails while I was riding my three-wheel trike up and down the street. That was pretty good fun. And the wheat queues up and down up the main street, almost as far as you could go, with little 3-tonne and 2-tonne loads on them, and Harry coming down the road with his old Dodge with about 5.5 or 6 tonne hanging off a 2-tonne truck. The old hall, the picture shows at the old hall, they were absolutely unbelievable. You go down there to see the pictures and all sorts of things. Where was the hall? The hall was down where Wimpler's shop is now, and all the Wycliffe side of it rotted out because the guys were pretty nigh on going to the toilet right down the back, so they used the side of the hall and it rotted out, so it fell over. One of the other memories I've got is building bonfires on the 5th of November, or for the 5th of November I should say, and buying crackers from Lardner's shop and setting them off around the town well and truly before the 5th of November and getting a kick up the bum from Mr. Parkey for doing it. There we go.
I'm Anne. I'm now Cochrane. I was Abbott and I was Bar Smith. And Jo's my sister, and we were born in Ararat, us 4 girls, and we actually first lived at where Jo is living now. Used to be called Sarah, and now Jo and Chas call it Delamere. Used to be part of Mount William. Yeah, we had, great fun growing up, I guess. We never actually went to primary school, which we should have, but we had a governess and we used to just take off on our ponies and refuse to go into the schoolroom. But anyway, we were a bit behind when we went to boarding school, but we had a great childhood. People I remember, I don't know if anyone remembers Jimmy Williams. Yes, yeah. And he used to live in a hut up in where Greg Phillips' place is, and it was just a wooden sort of hut. And anyway, he was a real old character, and he used to come a lot to Mount William. And then in Dad's day, there was a Czechoslovakian called Jerry Vrano, and he used to just live on eggs. He'd eat a dozen eggs a day, and he'd work on Mount William. And I was a very bad eater when I was little. I wish I was now too, because I put on a lot of weight. But anyway, Jerry used to have to come and feed me because I wouldn't eat for anyone but Jerry. So he was very popular with me. And Sergei Tognon, who people would remember, I think, he was, you know, we all loved Sergei, and he was in the Mount William Garden for 46 years. And he was married to Doris, who was Doris... Tognon, but she was Doris White. And Doris actually had the world record, the world record for the fastest rabbit skinner. And she could skin a rabbit in, I don't know if it was 10 or 20 seconds or something. But she was a wonderful girl, and, and sadly she died fairly early. In fact, I was nursing at the Alfred, and she had a terrible disease and died. And then, Serge just became really part of the family. And Mum just couldn't do without him. And every day she'd go out, Serge, do this, Serge, pick that up, Serge, da, da, da. But anyway, he was wonderful. And I don't know, what else, Joe? Mount William? Yeah. Oh, there was a story about a rabbiter at Mount William, or Graham might even remember it. And that was in my grandfather's time, and he used to go out catching rabbits in the horse and cart. And one day anyway, he put his hand down the rabbit hole and a snake grabbed the end of it. And so anyway, he was with someone else, and the other chap just cut his finger straight off. And anyway, it was lucky my grandfather was around because he nearly bled to death, but anyway, he made it to hospital, so he was okay. I don't know, there are lots of memories. I don't know what sort of things you want, but our great-grandmother, who was Zake, we used to call her Granny Zake, who lived at Moringa, where the Beggs family lived. She was my grandmother's sister. I remember her. She was a wonderful old lady. Do you remember her, Joe? Grandmother's mother. Oh, sorry, grandmother's mother. Good shot, Joe. Need you. And so she was terrific. My grandmother, well, she was... What funny things did she do, Joe? She was, pretty strict, Gran, and Mum, came out from England on a troop ship, and... they didn't see eye to eye very well because she was very strict. She used to have a bell, and you had to be there for lunch, at so-and-so time and everything like that. But she was, I went on a trip with her, on a boat trip because she only had Dad, and she had Uncle Dick, who maybe people here may remember. He used to dress up as Father Christmas. That was his very favourite thing. Anyway, he was a great character, but sadly he died in the Ararat Hospital. What else? Oh, the Christmas parties my grandmother used to have were incredible, really. She'd have her sister, Aunt Tom, Beggs. She used to dress up as Father Christmas. Every Christmas, and they'd have, just piles and piles of long tables and food and everything. And the main thing was the pictures. They'd have a picture, and it was such a treat to have see a film. Get so all very excited about that. Yeah, I know out on David Wheeler's block, which we bought, I think there are a lot of you know, sites, sacred sites there, because there's a lot of sand there, and they were out there and saying that, you know, and also the trees, we have got carvings in trees, haven't we, in the red gums? Quite a lot, you know, like canoes carved out of the red gums. Does anybody remember Stan White, who worked at Mount William? Anyway, he was a real character, and he used to, he had about 6 greyhounds and 3 sheepdogs, and he'd put them in the front of the car, and his wife always sat in the back. So that, he was funny. I always thought he was a funny fellow, wasn't he? Real character, yeah. I don't know, maybe Graham knows more things about Mount William.
Thanks. We might hand you over to Errol. He might talk about it.
I'm Errol McRae. Only thing I can remember back is about Mount William is the Watganya School. I know my brother John, he went to it for 6 months or 12 months, then they closed the school down. And that's about all I can remember. I didn't go to school there, but a few of the neighbours did, older, you know, they were Des Joyce and that. I remember him going to school there, and he was telling me stories about wagon and, you know, they'd go rabbiting for the day or something like that. They wouldn't turn up.
No.
Look, I was born in Ararat, went to the Willaura Primary School here, started off here in would have been about 1951, 52, I suppose. So, been here all my life, still there. My grandmother told me a bit, I was probably only about 14, 15 years of age, and she told me a lot of stuff that when they came down from the Mallee, I asked her actually how come they come down here, and she said about 1897 a drought started in the Mallee, New South Wales, and they came down here at about 1902, and she said that they were just dust storms, and actually she had a lot of photos of all these dust storms, and she said, well, they're no good to anybody, so she threw them all out and burnt them all. But I know my grandfather, I think he was only about 16, 17 years of age, and he was digging channels out when they were doing all the channels in the Mallee for the water, and the dust storms were just filling them all in, so they just gave up, and that's when they come down here. And he did a lot of share farming until about 1912 around the Willaura North area and Willaura area and Glen Thompson until about 1912, and then he bought a property called Glen Lyle on the Willaura Moyston Road and farmed that. And I think it would have been, I just don't know the years, but probably in the 30s, late middle 20s, 30s, he used to share farm with Murrumbula, which is a property next door to home, and I think 2 sunshine headers came out then, and he was the first one in Victoria to buy one, and the other one went to Albury Wodonga. What if you don't write all this down? I think they were only about 8 feet, I think. I remember the one in the shed. I've never ever seen it go, but, you know, working, but I know it was in the shed for quite a while. A couple of little things of other people used to tell me a few little stories about my grandmother when the first car came out in the Willaura area here, and of course those days they never had to have a driver's licence. As long as you could drive, you were all right. So she drove in the main street of Willaura here, and someone yelled out, "Look out, here comes Mrs. McRae, everybody off the road." And another one she told me about was, I don't know what year it was, but his grandfather, when he did a bit of share farming down around Glen, he used to take his draft horses and his equipment down to Glen somewhere, and 2 days later my grandmother would take the horse and cart and a cow and some chooks, and she'd go down there and cook for him, or cook for the men. Yeah. But anyway, that's, she probably told me a fair bit of stuff, but I've, you know, if you don't write it down or tape it, you forget all these things. But I know a couple of years ago, went to Scotland and chased up the McRaes, and they go right back to, you know, some of the graves go right back to the 17th century, but there's still the McRae Castle over there in the Island of Skye. But anyway, that's all I can remember at the moment.
As you just mentioned, I'm Peter Bingley. Just a short history of Greenvale, and it all seems to vary from what source you get it from. But anyway, originally in 1843, Robert Adams was granted licence for an area of 66,000 acres, which was covered from Glen Thompson, I think, to over to the back Bolac Road and up this side of Willaura, and Willaura was all part of Greenvale. Anyway, so in 1854 the property was purchased by James Austin, who presumably built the sandstone homestead out there. In 1858 James leased it out and later sold the property to his nephew Josiah Austin, Thomas Millier and Thomas Maidment, so there was three in it. In 1877, Josiah became the sole owner of it, and in 1887 he died and Wilfred, his son, inherited the property. Prior to the 1900s, the homestead had two further additions in preparation for its role as a prep school for Geelong Grammar. And this went on for nearly 20 years as a school. After that, the property was purchased by an Arthur Woods, and somewhere in between it was scaled down to a more usable area, I suppose. In 1945, my grandfather purchased the property out here, which I think was only about 1,200 acres at that stage. And after his death in 1948, my father John took over until 1960, when we moved down to Mount Mercer. My grandmother, which probably most people knew around the area, remained here until 1983, so she was a fairly long-standing resident. I was born here in Willaura and grew up at Greenvale, attended Willaura Primary School until we moved to Mount Mercer in 1960. And then I returned to Greenvale in 1972 and managed the property until it was sold in 1983. I think Harry covered a lot of information that I've written down. In the 50s, Willaura was a thriving metropolis. You didn't really have to go anywhere. It had all the tradesmen and people you could ever need to carry on your business without venturing too far away. Well, we had, as you mentioned, we had 3 milk bars, 2 garages, timber merchant Rex, which is still there, Rex Walmsley and his father, butcher, newsagent, baker, 3 banks, chemist, hotel, railway station and others. Oh, I quite often remember coming here for our films of I think they were through the week, Harry, or Saturday night, when Doc Alberts ran the films we had in this hall, not the old one. I remember the old one burnt down, didn't it? No, they moved it. No, that's right. Is it not going through? Yes, it is. We also had doctors, and a hospital were also operating, and Dr. Kecky was instrumental in I don't think anyone mentioned setting up our water and sewage scheme for Willaura, which, you know, was a way ahead of anyone else around the area. But unfortunately, after the closure of the PMG, Shire Depot, SEC and passenger rail service to the town, the population slowly decreased. Yeah, what more can I say? Anyway, thanks for listening.